If you're struggling to play fast 16th fills around the kit at 120 beats a minute plus, today's lesson is for you. If you're finding that your fast fills always end up sloppy, clumsy, and out of time, and you're terrified of train wrecking the band, or if you're playing along to a recording you just can't stay with it, then you need to learn today's exercise. Without learning the single subdivision exercise, which I'm teaching you today, you'll struggle to get your hands automatically playing in time so that your fills naturally happen in time without you having to count. So let's smoothen out your hands and boost your fill confidence today. You can do this. Hey, welcome to The Non-Glamorous Drummer. I'm so glad you're hanging out today. I help self-taught beginners know what to practice so that they can nail songs and become the drummer other people want to jam with and have in their band. But hey, if you ever feel stuck, you feel like you don't know what to practice, you're not sure what to practice next, you're not growing as fast as you thought you would, like you are not where you thought you would be a year ago. Like you thought that by now you would be way further ahead than you are. You're not making progress quickly enough and you're afraid that you're not gonna be able to do it. You're afraid that you're running out of time. You're losing motivation, you're getting discouraged. If that's you, I have a free gift for you that's gonna help you out a whole bunch. It's my beginner to gigging 6-step automatic growth method. This is a simple PDF guide that you can, if you've just got 30 minutes a day to practice, this is gonna give you everything you need to grow like crazy and get from beginner or wherever you're at to able to gig with a band and beyond. It's a simple 6-step system that shows you where you're at. Once you know where you're at, you know how to get to where you wanna go. Whether it's gigging or just being able to nail songs, this is your resource. This is a method I've been teaching to my paid students inside my coaching community for years. And one student in particular told me that he had made more progress in the last 6 months using this than he had in all the prior years of drumming combined. And so this is powerful. So many of my students have been getting results from it, and now I'm offering it to you totally free in this nice, simple PDF form. It's got every resource you need. It's so step by step. There's links to YouTube lessons. There's all sorts of good stuff in there. And it's gonna help you out with getting unstuck, making progress, being motivated, inspired, having fun, and reaching your goals and dreams on the drums. So go grab it, totally free, total no-brainer. It's in the description. All right, on with today's lesson. So here's the million-dollar question. How are you supposed to play fast and in time when there's no possible way to keep track of or count every single note you play? In other words, your hands are having to move faster than your brain. And this is kind of true for all of drumming, not just fast fills, but you get to a point where in order to play stuff, you have to be able to not think about every little thing you're playing. It has to just flow out of you. So how do we get there? Nobody can manually count out 16th notes at 120. I mean, maybe you can, 1 E into 2 E into 3 E into, but that's kind of crazy. And your brain can't process every individual note. It has to flow out of you. That's what this comes down to. You have to be able to play these fast and cleanly, but how do we get there? I've had to learn over time because I remember being there where I was trying to mentally process everything I was playing, and eventually things started to click and I began to be able to play much more naturally and smoothly. But what I realized is there's really just one secret to playing fast fills well, and this kind of applies to any fast, busy stuff on the drums. Here's the secret. You have to learn how that fill feels at that tempo, then just play it. Because it's too fast to count after all, so you have to know how it feels and then just play it. And then trust that your hands will operate in time. And that takes some practice. It takes some time to get there. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'll be honest. This isn't just something you're gonna master today by the end of today's lesson. I wish it could be that way. But this is one of those deep mental skills. Yes, there are physical techniques to work on to get better at playing quickly. There's grip, there's motion, there's strength, endurance, all that stuff. We've got a whole bunch of lessons on those kinds of things here on the channel. But ultimately, it goes deeper than that. There are drummers who have the strength there, who even are gripping right, but things are still choppy, they're not smooth, and they're not in time. And that's where the whole mental thing is the missing piece of the puzzle. And so that very well could be you, where you have to learn how to feel the time, feel the tempo, and teach your hands to automatically play at the right rate. And that's what today's exercise is going to help you do. And so this is a long play. This is something you've got to commit to for the coming weeks and months, but I promise you, you're going to get tremendous results, and you might start getting some wins today. Here's kind of how to sum up where we're going today. If you learn the elusive skill of subdividing the beat, I'll share with you what that means. You can teach your hands to automatically play in time, no counting required. So this is a concept that was kind of inspired. I kind of learned it from Giuliana. Something he said kind of inspired kind of inspired this. I listened to an interview with New York drummer Mark Giuliana years ago, and he was asked, so what do you practice in your apartment in New York City? Because he said, yeah, I don't have a drum set in my apartment. I mean, maybe if he did, he had to, keep it in storage. He couldn't play drums in his apartment. And I know that's many of you. You're having to practice quietly after the kids go to bed, or you're in a townhome or an apartment, a dorm. You just can't play loudly. And that was a situation Mark Giuliana was in. But of course, he was a professional gigging drummer playing all sorts of stuff in New York and all over the place. But he had to practice. And so the question was, so what do you practice? How do you practice? And he said, well, I just pull out my practice pad, and I'm very much paraphrasing. He was basically like, I want to make sure that I can play the simple stuff really well. So I'll sit down with my practice pad, and I'll put on my metronome, and I'll just sit there and play quarter notes. And then I'll practice playing eighth notes. I'll play some triplets. I'll play some sixteenths. And I'll just practice the simple stuff. I want to make sure my singles are really good, because I know that if I can play my singles really good today on my pad, then I can play anything. I can play the drums. If I can do the simple stuff really well and be relaxed and get a little bit better at those fundamentals every day, then I know I'm growing as a drummer, and I know I can go and play the gig tonight. And that just blew my mind, because it was so simple. Because I knew Mark Giuliana from watching a lot of his videos on Vic Firth, the artist spotlight videos, where he's doing this crazy stuff. I thought, wow, this technically crazy drummer who can play stuff that blows my mind, what does he practice in his apartment? Singles. That was so fascinating to me. And so I started doing the same thing. In my apartment, I started sitting there practicing quarter notes, practicing eighth notes, practicing sixteenths. And what I realized I was doing was I was getting better at subdividing. Subdividing is where you're basically taking the beat and you're dividing it into different numbers of parts. So if we're playing quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're not subdividing, because those are the beats. We haven't sliced the beat into any pieces. It's just 1, 2, 3. But let's say we subdivide it in 2. Well, then we're playing eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Does that make sense? We've subdivided the beat in 2. Or we could subdivide it into 3. Now we're doing triplets. 1 olet, 2 olet, 3 olet, 4 olet. So we've broken each beat into 3 parts. We could break it into 4 parts. That would be sixteenths. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and so on. You could go beyond that into 6 parts, 16th triplets, or 8 parts. That'd be 30 seconds. All of that is subdividing, and what you're doing in practicing that is teaching your hands to alternate at whatever rate to fit that many notes into each beat. And so that's where we're going with the exercise today. Really what it comes down to, the skill of playing quickly or playing syncopated, is just as much mental as it is physical. And so once you've got the physical down, you've got your grip, you've got the motion, you have to conquer the mental side of this, which is teaching your brain how to feel the time, feel the pulse, and subdivide the beat, and get your hands to just alternate automatically in time. And so I like to call this the single subdivision exercise. That's not what Mark Giuliana called it. I've just assigned that name to it and kind of taken his concept and run with it. And so all we're going to do here, set the metronome to 60 beats a minute. Just quarter notes. Now you can do eighth notes, but I encourage you to push yourself to do quarter notes as soon as you can. And what we're going to do is step 1. Pause it for a second while I explain. Step 1, slow quarter notes. So right, left, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to go to eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Eighth note triplets. 1 olet, 2 olet, 3 olet, 4 olet. Sixteenths. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and then we can go beyond that. You can stop right there with the sixteenths, but at this tempo we're going so slow, you could then go into the 16th triplets in the 30 seconds, and it's not crazy fast. 30-second notes at 60 is 16ths at 120, which is kind of our target, right? It was in the title, back in the intro of the video, I said, hey, if you want to be able to play 16ths at 120, this is the key. So I encourage you to go all the way to there. Kind of the beginner method is stopping with the 16ths at 60. But I encourage you to go beyond, follow along with me. Here's what this will look like. I'll have my metronome clicking here for reference, just quarter notes. So you'll hear I'll do 2 measures of each subdivision, and then we'll basically go to the next subdivision, squeeze another note in, squeeze a couple more notes in, and then we'll work our way backwards back to where we started. Here goes. Just like that. Now give yourself some grace when it falls apart and when it's a huge mess and when you're like, Steven, this is way harder than it looks. And that is the truth. This is a lot harder than it looks. And transitioning between the 8th note triplets and the 16ths, that is the hardest transition, I think. Going between into it's just a weird one. So focus on that. Practice that over and over again. You can do it with an 8th note metronome. Have your metronome do this right here instead. Doing 8th notes, or you could set it to quarters at 120. You do the math. I encourage you to do quarter notes so that you're truly learning to subdivide mentally without hearing any additional help from it. That's what you ultimately want to be able to do. And so what's actually happening as you're practicing this is you are hearing, you're hearing the click, whether it's in your headphones or it's, on your phone, iPad, whatever right here. You're hearing that, and so you're having to coordinate what you're hearing there with what you're hearing right here. And so this is ultimately a coordination listening exercise, because listening is coordination. If you're learning to listen to stuff while you're playing, that is coordination, because you're playing something and you're having to now divert your focus not just on what you're doing, but divert it to what you're listening to. And so what I found in my experience is that the better I can get at this, and the better I get at metronome weaning, that's kind of another variation of this, where we're practicing playing and we're playing with less and less metronome, where we have the metronome do quarters and then half notes and then just play on the downbeats. Really cool concept, really cool exercise to do. Doing these kinds of things, it helps you feel the time better. It improves your time. Obviously, your playing becomes smoother, more natural and in the pocket, and you build coordination. It's one of the craziest things. And as you build that coordination, you get better at listening, which helps so much in any musical situation where you can be playing something and what you're playing goes on autopilot while you're listening to the guitar player or the piano player. That is such an important skill for playing well with a band, and even for just playing along with a recording. That's critical. So many drummers don't work on that, and so many teachers don't teach that, but this is incredibly helpful to you. So do it. Take action on this. Practice this. You can do this just on your practice pad. You can do it on your snare. You could actually do this in groove form where well, before I say that, you can do this with one hand versus both. So you could sit here and do quarter notes with one hand, 8ths, triplets, 16ths, and just go to the 16ths with the one hand. Then you can take that and apply that to a groove where you might do like that. So you could also do it that way and practice staying relaxed while doing it, which is tough. And so you can put this into a groove form. There's really limitless possibilities with what you do with this. And so that's why today I just present you the core concept, the core exercise, and the internal mental powers that this has that it's going to help you gain. And now you can take it and run with it and really begin feeling the results, reaping the rewards from doing it. So specifically, here's what will happen when you practice this. Your time in general will improve, obviously. And more specifically, you'll be able to better feel the time in music. And that's what's so important. You'll be able to feel the time, which means less counting and more just playing. You'll find that you get to a fill and you just play it and it's automatically in time. Imagine that. And this is an exercise you can just sit here practicing on your practice pad. What I would do back in my apartment days is I would get as good at this exercise as I could, and I would practice it at different tempos. Do 60, do 70, 80, 90. At that point, you've covered a lot of ground if you do it at just a few different tempos because of all the different subdivisions. And so at that point, you've pretty much covered every possible rate of alternation. And so what I found was when I could do that really well, I could get to the gig that night and feel so confident in my time and my ability to just flow around the kit and play everything in the pocket. That's what you're going to find too. You'll develop the ability to feel the quarter note pulse while playing a different rhythm with your limbs. So you'll get to where kind of a next level from this that'll happen over time is you'll get to where you can play different rhythms, different syncopated rhythms, different randomness potentially, while still feeling the pulse and still staying in time. That's tremendous. Most importantly, you will be able to confidently launch into a fill, knowing that it will end at the right time and not train wreck the band. That is what I want for you. I do not want you fearing train wrecking the band because of a fill. And this is such a common fill struggle. Probably the number one fill struggle that many of you have told me, especially those of you on my email list that respond to my surveys. You've told me that it's not so much starting the fill, it's finishing the fill. You know that it needs to end on beat one, but you have a hard time making sure that happens. And so there's always that fear of starting a fill and then just getting lost and train wrecking. Getting good at this prevents that from happening. when you get good at this exercise, give it a few days, give it a few weeks, do this for months, and you will, I promise you, you will get so good at this and so solid, and you'll feel so much more confident launching into any fill, any rate of playing, even a triplet fill on a gig, and you'll have the confidence that, you know what, I feel the time. I know when I'm going to land, and it's going to be great. I'm not going to train wreck the band. And that is awesome. So I want you to know you can do this, and it's so simple. It's not rocket science, and just start with a simple exercise, and it's going to help you out a ton. So, hey, question for you as you go. What's your goal tempo for 16th fills? What's your goal tempo? Maybe you're wanting to learn Everlong by the Foo Fighters. That song's pretty quick. I don't remember what the tempo is on that one. Probably 160 or so. Those are some fast 16ths. What's your goal tempo? What's that song that you're always working toward playing flawlessly? So what's the song that has the fill in it that you're trying to get, and what's that tempo? So get really specific with that, and then use this whole single subdivision exercise to help you get there. Because let's say you just need to play 16th notes at 140. Okay, we'll set your metronome to 70, do this whole exercise, and when you get to the 30 seconds at 70, well, those are 16ths at 140. So there you go. You're getting a lot better at those. And so continue pushing yourself with getting faster while continuing to work on grip and motion, which we've got other lessons about here on the channel. And so make sure you're working that also, because that's the physical side of it. There's the physical side, there's the mental side. There's always those two sides to everything in drumming, and probably on any instrument. And so be practicing that, be working on that. Don't forget to grab the PDF e-guide I told you about earlier, my free gift to you. If you want to go from beginner or wherever you're at, if you're a self-taught beginner and you want to get to where you're able to play with a band, you're able to nail songs, this is the method for you. Go grab it. It's been helping my paying students for years, but I'm now offering it to you for free. 6-step method, 30 minutes a day. You can grow so much on the drum. So go grab that. All right. I hope this lesson has been super valuable and helpful to you. As always, know that you can do this. Stay non-glamorous. I'll see you on the next lesson.